auditors from the City of Waltham Planning Department, along with Colette Casey Brennan, Frank McCashin, the Waltham City Planning Department as well. We have Brian Zamoka here with us from Nitsch Engineering. He's going to give us a presentation, and after that, we'll have citizen input. WCAC is recording this meeting. If anybody else is recording, state the name to the record.
Jamie Kirkelly, 781 News on YouTube.
Thank you.
Bob, there's no one recording the meeting from my channel. They're not available. I think it's an audio recording. There's no one recording the meeting.
Only an audio recording. Thank you, Chris. Brian.
Everybody hear me? Yes. All right, great. Thank you everybody for coming. It's nice to see everybody here, even though the weather's not that great. But the rain is at least, you don't smell the brush fires anymore. So my name is Brian Zamoka. I'm with Nitsch Engineering. I'm a senior project manager, and we were hired by the city to do a feasibility study for the Moody Street to understand what our opportunities are for implementing a pedestrian mall or improvements along the roadway. Blocking it? A little bit. Oh, sorry. So, when we initiated the project, we wanted to look at the Moody Street corridor, but also the surrounding neighborhood around Moody Street. So what did we observe? So we observed that Moody Street is a very walkable corridor that has a lot of opportunity. And although it's very walkable, it can use a lot of wider sidewalks for comfort or pedestrian way. But we also noticed that it's also a commuter route during the peak hours with the T station right to the north of Pine Street. Let's talk about parking. So parking, from what I understand and from what we observed, is one of the causes of poor traffic in the area. When cars are parking, they're blocking a lot of traffic, specifically the parallel parking. And also prior implementations of the temporary pedestrian mall have benefited the restaurants with the outdoor dining and residents seeking gathering spaces. So what's the neighborhood? What's our understanding?
Can I ask a question? May I ask a question? No?
There's a citizen input here. It's not a question and answer. The citizens are going to be allowed to come up and state their opinion. We're going to write down everything. It's not a Q&A.
I was just going to ask a clarification question.
Go ahead.
You said parallel parking is causing traffic. What does that mean?
Okay. So from what we understand, when a car is pulling in and there's a lot of traffic behind it, it's just naturally your car stops and everybody has to wait while they back in. And over time, when many cars parking, it's just going to add to the queue. So that's what we understand is one of the causes of traffic. Does that answer your question?
Thank you.
Okay, perfect. So what do we notice about the neighborhood? So the neighborhood in itself is primarily residential, but we understand that there may be concerns about increased traffic through the neighborhood roadway with the improvements. So what are our project goals? So we have 4 project goals here. So we want to improve walkability and enhance the retail corridor. We want to have an area that invites pedestrians and cyclists in a comfort and safe manner. 2, we want to establish a destination-based roadway to serve the local businesses. We understand the needs for abutters for parking, and we want to maintain the parking for these high turnover, quick turnover uses. Also, we need to maintain emergency access for fire and other emergency vehicles. Number 3, we want to formalize the existing outdoor dining. Right now, you go there, it's a lot of dirt and barriers, it feels very temporary. We want to make it something more attractive, but still keep the essence of what the outdoor dining is trying to accomplish. And we also want to enhance the corridor. Visually, we want to install more planters and create gathering spaces for more residents to come through. So what was our approach? So we established evaluation criteria for the corridor design. We first thought, how can we make this corridor more attractive? And then, how can we formalize the outdoor dining to speak to my goals that I just said before? Well, we want to incorporate a vibrant landscape design that everybody can feel that's beautiful around the corridor. So we teamed with a landscape architect, KZLA, who provided excellent design input and renderings for these attractive spaces. And also what we wanted to do is we wanted to employ stormwater management techniques. These days with climate change and climate resiliency, we're always looking in every project to see what can we do to infiltrate water and improve drainage around the area. So we want to propose rain gardens and street trees through the corridor. And then traffic. So what do? We had to analyze all the traffic because we want to make sure that whatever we do to this roadway doesn't significantly impede the roadway network. So we analyzed the existing conditions, we projected the future distribution for each of the three alternatives, which I'll go into in a second, and analyzed the future traffic conditions based on these alternatives. Can everybody hear me, by the way? I'm stepping a little to the side to block this. All right. So the three alternatives that we considered. So as you can see right up here, this is three little diagrams of it. So we considered alternative one, which is maintaining northbound traffic only along Moody Street. Alternative two, maintaining southbound traffic. And then alternative three is the full closure, full pedestrian lane. So all three alternatives provide bicycle accommodations, community space, and enhanced infrastructure. Like I said, alternative one maintains the one-way northbound, one-way southbound, and then the new traffic, or no traffic, sorry. So let's talk about streetscape design. So what we notice is the existing streetscape design prioritizes cars. It's two-way traffic, it's on-street parking along the corridor, except for the outdoor dining spaces. And what does this say to us? It says there's opportunities to increase bicycle and pedestrian safety and create these vibrant spaces that will be welcoming for everybody. So how do we do it? Well, initially we proposed to widen the sidewalks, increase the capacity for pedestrians along the corridor. We're thinking about adding benches or shared spaces for residential comfort and for gathering spaces. We want to create a separated two-way cycle track to encourage bicycle use. One thing we're noticing right now is there's no exclusive bike facilities, and there's a tendency to be reluctant to use your bicycle if you don't have these exclusive facilities. So we also want to maintain or provide bike parking accommodations, so bicycle racks along the corridor. And then we want to connect and activate the green spaces using planters, gardens, and trees, as I noted. Off to the right here, so the picture you're seeing right now is the rendering from KZLA, reimagining where this is at High Street, or sorry, not High Street, High Street and Moody Street. And at the right corner of the picture is Fahey Park. And we think there's a real opportunity to really engage that more by adding benches and creating more a gathering space out of that area. So what do we want to do with this? Well, pedestrian safety is one of the most paramount things when it comes to doing a roadway design. So we want to implement modern traffic calming techniques. So first one, raised crosswalks. You might have seen them throughout Waltham or other municipalities. They help create a continuous sidewalk and they help delineate pedestrian travel. They also provide a pedestrian visibility for cars coming on. Chicanes are basically bends in the roadway. And what these do is they create deflections, so when you're driving down, you have to slow down to meander your way around. And these would be around outdoor dining spaces or other features that we would look to implement. So this is a great technique to make sure that cars are maintaining low speeds and prioritizing pedestrian safety. Curb extensions. Curb extensions, you might have seen, they're very common. What they do is they essentially narrow the effective roadway width and discourage parking. They also shorten the pedestrian crossings for safer walk times. And they also create little opportunities for community spaces and potentially stormwater management or rain gardens through there. And then alternative pavements. Alternative pavements just helps distinguish an intersection from pedestrian crossing, and it's about visual delineation for oncoming vehicles. So parking. So what we understand is, and I mentioned it before, parking is an important topic for this area. To enhance the area, we plan to reduce the number of parking spaces. What we've noticed along these roadways, majority of the day is not all the parking spaces are utilized. They're mostly utilized late afternoon and evening when more of the restaurants are open. But what we want to do, we don't want to close all parking. Like I said before, we want to make sure that the abutters are well served, and that we want to maintain parking in front of the quick turnover uses. So we've noticed the salons, the convenience stores, the takeout restaurants, the laundromats, things of that nature. So we explored 2 parking options. One is alternative 1s and 2s is parallel parking only. It's not being shown right here right now, but that basically maintains what we have now. It reduces the number, but still maintains that same scheme. The second is a angled, more hybrid, let's call it parallel and hybrid park, and parallel and angled spaces, if you could visualize that in my mind. So anyway, so where we're going with this is, so the existing number of stalls is 49. With the parallel parking, we could accommodate 34, and with the angled hybrid parking, we can accommodate 39 spaces. So we're reimagining this corridor, and we would propose the angled hybrid parking spaces, and ultimately, we'd only have a reduction of 10 parking spaces. And alternative 3, which is close the road, obviously, there could be no parking on that road. So this is a little bit hard to read. Diagrams are very small, but hopefully you can get the essence of it. So these are the 2 schemes that are shown that I mentioned before with the parking. So the top one is parallel parking spaces, the bottom one is angled parking spaces. Like I said, it's very tough. I hope you can see that section right under that, if you're looking at the bottom one, alternative 2, right under the green call out that says 1300. If you look down, that's where the angled parking spaces would be. Similarly, they would also be right under the legend. So I apologize that it's a little difficult to read, but we want to show that as best as possible. So the cross sections would be the same for alternative 1 and 2. Alternative 1 and 2 would be northbound and southbound. The directionality would be the only difference. We still try to maintain, we still provide that same streetscape design that we want to provide, that I was talking about before. So the parallel spaces, what does that do? It allows for more area for shared spaces and amenities. And the angled hybrid spaces, so these are give and takes, you can accommodate more stalls, as I mentioned. You can provide more green infrastructure, and there'd be more vehicle deflection, improved traffic calming. With those angled spaces, as I mentioned with the chicanes before, you'd have to slowly navigate your way around, making it more safe for pedestrians. So let's look at traffic. As I mentioned before, traffic is very important for this because we want to make sure that whatever we do doesn't significantly impact the roadway network. So from a traffic standpoint, we collected volumes at 7 intersections in April. It was Moody Street, Crescent and Pine, Moody at High, Crescent at Adams and Spruce, Crescent at Maple, Adams at Maple, High and Lowell, and Pine and Lowell. If you look at the volumes up on here, the Moody Street volumes, they are actually for these, so 423, sorry, 7601, that's the vehicles per day, that's what the VP means. And the peak hour being 423 and 585. These seem high, but when you look at the breakdown, 241 northbound, 183 southbound. I'm gonna save you all, Ms. Berry, from reading all these numbers, but the point being is these are actually fairly low volumes when you talk about a new corridor. And one of the things that you can see here, and this is kind of leads into one of the preferred alternatives. You can see there's much heavier traffic, It's slightly heavier in the northbound direction, which is why if we decide to pick an alternative, we would prefer the northbound to maintain those traffic volumes. So traffic impacts. I'm going to breeze through this a little bit, but to establish the traffic study, we established a vehicle diversion trip distribution for each alternative. This is a methodology used by traffic engineers. We have done a much finer detailed distribution at each intersection, but what you're seeing right now on this graphic is basically the gross distribution. So the point of this is to show where a majority of the traffic is likely to be diverted to. So 15% on Crescent, 15% on Adams, 40% on Lowell, and 30% on Newton. So this alternative, like I said before, maintains northbound traffic, and it also has there's a reliance on the neighborhood to the east for these diversions. This alternative also maintains direct MBTA commuter line access. We want to make sure that commuters have that. I know there's always that rush in the morning, so we want to make sure that everybody has that straight connection to the T. And it also maintains connections to Route 20. The approximate diversion volumes throughout the period, so we're talking about 50 to 100 vehicles per hour. So when you break that down, it sounds like a lot. That's 1 to 2 vehicles per minute. If you're standing outside, if you're standing out your window, if you turn away for a little bit, you might miss the extra traffic. And in the PM, on Crescent Street and Adams, we're talking about 50 to 140 vehicles. So the same thing, 1 to 2 vehicles per minute. That's it. That's what we calculate it at. And that's important to know because it helps give that visual of what I'm actually going to see. We recommend, as part of this, we recommend traffic signal timing adjustments to both the terminal intersections, so at High Street and at Pine Street. And what we'd also do as part of this is we'd like to add potential improved signage. I think it's paramount for safety and for to guide pedestrians or guide vehicles through this area. So we propose new signage and markings at the key intersections, one being Crescent and Adams. Alternative, similarly, so this is the southbound one. Similarly, with this alternative, this maintains the southbound traffic as I mentioned, and there still is the reliance on the neighborhood to the east. Traffic to the west of Moody Street would most likely use Adams and not Crescent. That's just given the free flow nature of Adams. This accommodates evening commutes from the commuter line and access points to the northeast from Route 20. So we're talking basically the same impact except reverse. This has slightly more traffic impacts. So for the diversion volumes, we're talking about 80 to 100 vehicles per hour in the neighborhood to the east. However, that still comes down to about 1 to 2 vehicles per minute. And 90 to 180 vehicles per hour on Crescent Street, which is 2 to 3 vehicles per minute. So in that same kind of context, you're not really going to notice that much unless you're standing there counting traffic. But as I mentioned before, with the alternative one, this would require signal timing adjustments at the Moody Street intersections. Signal timing adjustments are the most low-cost mitigation measures you can do, and they're very effective in this scenario. Alternative 3, this is kind of a hybrid of both those alternatives because it's a full closure. We have the full diversions. It's not preferred based on the higher impacts to the neighboring roadways, and potentially it can be implemented on weekends when there's no commuting traffic, but that will be determined at a later date. So the approximate diversion volumes for this, we're talking 2 to 4 vehicles per minute in the neighborhood and 3 to 5 vehicles per minute at Crescent and Adams. Similarly, like I said before, this would also require traffic signal timing modifications. So I don't expect everybody to read this entire diagram, but what this shows is just, if you look at the color codes, alternative 1, you can see that is what, you can see there's an improvement to Adams and Maple. Alternative 2 we actually experienced a degradation at Adams and Maple during the PM. And alternative 3, this is, I don't want to say misleading, but you see a lot of green here. The only reason you're seeing a lot of green is because we're eliminating all traffic on Moody Street. So we're eliminating the approaches, and it'll be giving more time to the other approaches. So, however, you can also see that there's still degradations at Lowell and High during the AM and PM peak hours. So this kind of just summarizes each alternative. Really quickly, alternative 1 permits northbound vehicular travel only. There's negligible impacts to all intersections, and it creates about 20,000 square feet of community green spaces. Alternative 2, southbound traffic only. There's degradation to overall intersection operations, but it also creates about 20,000 square feet of the new community green spaces. And the last one closes Moody Street altogether. There will be improvements to Moody Street intersection operations, but increases in delay during the weekday morning. This one creates the most amount of community green space, but creating 45,000 square feet of green spaces. So that is it. Just wanted to put this last picture up here for everybody to see that visual, but thank you everybody for your time.
Thank you, Brian. At this time, we're going to have a brief recess, and then we'll have citizen input. I'd also like to tell everybody here that the full study is on the City of Waltham Planning website, and you can see everything really well. Okay?
If you're planning to give citizen input, when you come up to the podium, please put down your name and address, and then you're going to state your name and address. Everybody will be allowed to give us input about 3 minutes. Then there'll be a timer here to let you know when you have 1 minute left and this and that. So if you want to sign up on the clipboard and line up, we'll get started shortly.
Look out for doing or WCOC.
I'm just joking. It's about
So at least you're in class.
Hi. This is live. This is live. Good to see you. No, I'm just gonna record to make sure it gets tipped over and
the public input portion of this meeting. Mary Smith, why don't we have Mary Smith start first? Mary Smith is a dummy. Jamie? You ready? Jamie, everybody's going to have 3 minutes to speak, and then we'll let you know when you have 1 minute left, okay?
All right. I just wanted to say that I'm in favor of at least some. Hold on, have you okay. Is it? Is this on? Awesome. I just wanted to say that I'd be in favor of as much pedestrianization as we can get away with. I'd be in favor of option 3, frankly. But any of the options at this point would be preferable to what we already have. And I don't have any strong preferences out of 1 or 2, but I would much prefer to see 3. Thank you. That's it.
Thank you, Jamie. I also want to say, Brian mentioned the 3 options. There's actually 4. There's 3 options, and the 4th option is to leave it the way it is. Yes, okay. I'm sorry?
Jacob Fager, please.
I'm just speaking in favor of, well, personally, alternative 3 is my choice, but I think alternative 1 has the best balance for this community. It reduces vehicle traffic, it increases safety for pedestrians and bikers. It still maintains a destination and sense of community on the street, allows for safer and better outdoor dining, and still keeps some parking for the high turnover businesses, which in these past meetings has been important to those businesses. So I think the best community compromise is alternative 1, and I speak for it. Thank you.
Gary Markowitz?
I have a couple questions and I have a statement that's prepared. First, what were the dates where the traffic volumes were assessed? Traffic is seasonal in Waltham with 2 colleges that we have. Second issue is traffic impacts ignore feeder streets, parking restrictions, noise restrictions, and believe it or not, ways rerouting. Traffic would be highly impacted by ways we get rerouted. There's a lot of other neighborhoods and other cities that all complain about ways pushing people into the feeder streets. The next one was Waltham Street is already seeing heavy traffic, new speeding, and higher volume vehicles. Vehicles without mufflers, scooters without mufflers, and there's also been 3 near-fatal accidents between Taylor and Lowell Street in the last 3 years. Traffic Commission should look at that as well. In terms of my prepared statement, when Moody Street was closed for outdoor dining, there was notable increases in traffic and congestion, and speeding, illegal parking at hydrants, excessively loud cars, trucks, double parking, even buses on Lowell Street, High Street, and even in Taylor Street, where I live. Traffic is still significant, and there's still frequent speeding on Lowell Street. The high-density residential nature of these streets, considering families, children, and playgrounds in the vicinity, likely make them unsuitable to take on the burden of intensified traffic that would be redirected from Moody Street under the pedestrian mall scenario, where the complete elimination of vehicular traffic between High and Pine Street. This pedestrian mall option would also put undue burden on the residents of Ward 9, with elevated noise, air pollution, trash, and pedestrian safety. Adding traffic congestion to this already high-density area would likely also impact real estate values and reduce real estate taxes under very real reassessment scenarios. I checked. We join the businesses and other residents of Ward 9 in making it known that this pedestrian mall option, and state for the record that we do not favor reconfiguration of Moody Street into a permanent pedestrian mall. Thank you.
Thank you, Gary. Thank you, Gary. Adrian Allen Street, can't read the last name.
Thank you for the presentation. I just wanted to speak out in strong favor of alternative 1 with the one-way traffic. There's just a few points I wanted to make with the traffic calming. For one, these are all costly projects. I think a lot more value would come from putting the funds used for traffic calming onto further placemaking additions along Moody Street, including green spaces, benches, and other public spaces. I would like to see the data for the 85th percentile speeds on Moody because I doubt they're over 26, 27 miles per hour. I think it would be the wrong use of funds to waste it essentially on large-scale traffic calming rather than placemaking along the roadway. I also wanted to say that I was disappointed not to see the current parking demand and capacity on Moody Street. Along the surface lots of Moody Street, there is a ratio of 25 spots for every one parallel parking spot on Moody Street. It would be ridiculous to sort of go against the will of the greater public to preserve those 49 spaces. The streets are for the public and should be used for the public good. I think an alternative 1 or even a full closure, although I understand the needs of the business, would be preferable. Additionally, I think we can't really ignore all the vacancies that you see along Moody Street. Prior to the reopening of Moody Street to vehicular traffic, it was a place that people from outside of Waltham came to and wanted to come to, and you see that reflected in higher parking demand on weekend nights, where the lots do approach capacity. But outside of that, they never approach capacity. I think it would be silly for most of these spots, it's less than a 5-minute walk to whatever business. I don't think that is worth giving up a project of this scale. I would also like for the city to focus on actual data rather than sort of catastrophizing the parking situation. Throughout the presentation, the total parking capacity was not shown, and I do think that's misleading. So again, just strongly supporting the one-way closure. Thank you.
Gustav Nicholson, please.
Hi, I'd like to thank Nitsch Engineering firm in the city for taking on this study and looking into alternatives to improve Moody Street in the future. I currently live at 72 School Street. I don't know if I'm supposed to say that, but I really appreciate a lot of the improvements they put forward and think they would be great citywide, things like the bump outs and better pedestrian visibility. When I walk around Waltham, I often notice like 1 in 2 drivers is on their phone taking a right-hand turn, going around, or if they're stopping at a traffic light and it turns green, they don't really look up, they just sort of go. And I feel that these can cause a lot of safety issues just around the wider city and not just on Moody Street. I think we also may have missed a really good solution for Moody Street in considering time pedestrianization of it, in terms of, we've had in the past, just the summer season, it would be open for pedestrians, and there's also potential to do just evenings and afternoons for pedestrianization. And I think that would also help with the morning rush hour traffic that was a problem in alternative 3. So I'd like to consider, a timed car and pedestrian Moody Street, and not just one or the other. Thank you.
And Lisa Gary.
sorry, they're loud. Yeah. So thank you so much for doing the study. Thank you for the city councilors for commissioning that. I did read all 69 odd pages of this, which was the substance of the report. I think there was 4,400 so pages with the data and all that. But I actually disagree with your conclusion. I have no doubt that you're super, super skilled. What was interesting was there was so much that was great in your report, right? I don't know if anyone else, I know a lot of people did get a chance to actually read it, and you did a great job presenting it. What was awesome was I saw like complete streets type items, like raised bed planners with places to sit, and I read things like how Moody St was a heat island, one of the worst in the country, right? So from that, I was like, well, man, they really, I'm a scientist by training, so I was like, surely they drew the conclusion that alternative 3 is the best option, right? You didn't. I was like, what? I was like, what? So I think that alternative 3, based on actually your study, is the best option. So I thank you for the study, but I'm super looking forward to hearing what all these awesome people have to say. And again, you are the experts in this field. This is not my field. So thank you so much for your study. Looking forward to what everyone else has to say. And thank you to everyone for tuning out on this drought quenching, hopefully, night. Thank you.
Sergio?
Hi, so my name is Sergio. I moved here to Waltham about 3 years ago when we used to have the summers where we used to have it all pedestrianized. And I know that that made me really welcome to this community. It made me push me to move here. And I know that that made the impact for a lot of people I know. So we used to have it back 3 years ago, and we slowly pushed back that incentive. And I'm glad that you guys took the time and effort to do all this information. And I do want to agree with alternative 3, and I say maybe alternative 1 is a good compromise where we serve both the businesses as well as the people that want to feel more safe to walk around there, and make, you know, Moody Street that vibrant city vibe that it has and it used to have that brought so many new people into the city. So maybe like an alternative 4 that is not making things stay the way they are right now, but maybe, you know, going with alternative 1 for most of the day from, you know, all the morning until 6 p.m. after everybody comes back, and then we close it for pedestrians to go for dinner. So that is my input. Thank you so much.
Great.
Hello, my name is Luis Chandler. I have a small store in Moody Street, and I'm against your all the plan. I want to leave as it is right now. I have a 50 signature and 4 landlord. I'm against the 4. Thank you.
Mitchell?
Hey, good evening. Thanks for coming out, and thanks for doing all this hard work. I don't usually read from the script, but I think if I'm facing you guys, that might be easiest. So I'm in support mostly of proposal number 3, full pedestrianization of Moody Street. From my point of view, pedestrian places are usually the most popular, lucrative, and feasible places the city can have anywhere in the world. You know, people travel at great personal expense to cities all around, like Munich, Madrid, or New York, all to spend our time just walking around. I walk around the most, obviously, in Waltham because I live here. I'm walking around Waltham every single day, whether it's for business, personal matters, recreation. However, before I moved to Waltham, I used to live in California, and there they have the 3rd Street Promenade in Santa Monica, their premier destination. There's the State Street Pana in Santa Barbara, same thing there, something they did during COVID and kept. In Burlington, Vermont, many of us here in this room have probably been to Church Street, that's a pedestrian mall, wildly popular. You don't go to Burlington without visiting that place. Wherever you go in these cities, you go and visit their pedestrian spaces. They don't usually let you park cars there because, of course, that's not the point. It's harmful to the quality of the area that people enjoy. We had a pedestrian mall during summers here in Waltham that was very, very successful. It's one of the reasons I chose to move here specifically. And it was such a great success. Why don't we have that all the time? I promise I won't be much longer. While alternatives wanting to close down half the street to cars, I think putting a high pedestrian density corridor in the crosshairs of fast-moving car traffic may cause some new problems. Just on my way in here today, against a red light and a pedestrian signal, I almost got run down by some dude in a white BMW, and anybody at that intersection who's walking in here today probably saw that. I'd love to not have to deal with that on Moody Street, same exact situation, even on a one-way. I want one place in town that can just be for people, not for cars. Here's my bottom line. They've already done the studies and the engineering work. Thank you so much. The verdict's in. Opening the street will help businesses and won't unduly harm traffic and parking, especially parking. Proposal 3 will be an amazing people first place in Waltham. I'm in full support of that one. Thank you for your time.
Kai.
Hello, Kai Tolar. I am in favor of proposal 3, alternative 3. Either of the other two proposals I think would be okay, better than what we have now. During the pandemic, when it was open to just pedestrians, it was much more welcoming. It was wonderful to see the families there and going up and down with their scooters and just walking around. I don't want to bother the surrounding area with too much traffic, so that's why my alternative 1 might be. I wouldn't object to that being chosen, but I really like the idea of a much more bicycle-friendly, pedestrian-friendly, pedestrian-only walkway. One of the things that I just want to comment on that's currently on Moody Street is there's these raised areas around the trees, which creates a hazard for people going along with wheelchairs and pushing baby carriages. Hopefully, those kinds of things, it would be easier to have. They have other grates and stuff that you can just go right over in other towns. That would probably be a better solution. It was not clear to me what was going to happen with handicap spots in alternative 3, like how easy it would be for people in wheelchairs to get to the street. I would not object to allowing delivery trucks or handicapped people to go on the street, even if it's fully pedestrian friendly. They would have to go walking speed. Slowing traffic down is one of the best ways of making a place more pedestrian friendly and reducing fatalities. So I'm really glad that you brought up the whole issue of chicanes and slowing down traffic in general. All right, that's all I want to say.
Matthew Frederick.
Hi, thank you all. My name is Matthew Frederick. I'm an urban designer and a Waltham resident. I know you need to have a professional in your field in front of you taking me to task. I apologize in advance for any stridency. I know Judy Nitsch is a great firm. But my complaint is that this is fundamentally an engineering study with some, forgive me, boilerplate with landscape improvements, bicycle improvements. It's an engineering study. It's not an urban design study, it's not an economic study, it's not a humanistic study. There's over 400 pages, 85% of it is on traffic. There's no interview of residents, there's no survey of business owners, there's no interviewing of restaurant owners or non-restaurant owners to see what their different interests may be. No city should move forward on the basis of what we know at this point. We need to know more. The only business type that was mentioned, I believe, tonight was restaurants. I believe in this study that's the case too, with perhaps a passing mention of nail salons or something like that. I favor option 4, leave it but make other improvements. We can make better use of existing public spaces for dining. There's a plaza next to Gustazo. There's a wide sidewalk area next to the Mexican Spanish restaurant at the corner of Maple Street. That whole intersection is much too big. It can be narrowed. The sidewalks can be widened there. There are some restaurants that have spaces behind them that are used for dining now. There may be more such spaces. The city can help these restaurants figure out how to do that. And you do notice 1 to 2 more cars per hour when you live on a street. When you're doing a traffic study, maybe not. You're reducing parking from, I forget the numbers, 49 to 38 or something. That's a 25% reduction in parking. If you're a business owner, depending on that, you'd notice it. Pedestrian malls do not work in the United States with a few exceptions. You guys know this. We had over 200 of them 20 or 30 years ago. We're down to about 70. They work in Burlington, they work in Virginia, because you have embedded college population, people without cars, kids who tend to travel in groups. Our college, we have 2 colleges, they're on the periphery, they're not in the downtown area. I guess I wanted to make one last comment, and that is, who are we designing the city for? I'm fortunate in the sense that I'm white. I am of the college-educated class. I have time to come to this meeting. We have many more white people in the room than people of color. So restaurants and pedestrian malls are great for me. But you know what? That's not where you start designing the city. You design it for everyone. We need to hear more from people of color, people, business owners, and people that look different from most of the people in the room. Thank you.
Noel?
Hi, my name is Noel Sagan. I live on Massasoit Street. I have lived in Waltham for 8 years. I've loved Waltham so much that I bought a house 5 years ago. Love it. One of the main reasons I love Waltham is because of Moody Street. We don't ever leave Waltham. We have a large group of friends that we don't leave it because of Moody Street. We walk up and down it every time we go out. We try to walk it every day. The sidewalks are so small. We have to go single file down the sidewalk every time. It's super frustrating. So that's one of the biggest things that I've noticed. But I also lived in Atlanta where we had the Belt Line. And when they opened that, that was so super popular. Everyone goes out and tries to find it, goes to the restaurants. We also need to have pedestrian protection. I don't know how many times I've been hit or been close to being hit on Moody Street because of how fast people drive. We need the chicanes, we need to bring more things to slow it down. I challenge the gentleman that says that we're not talking to the restaurants or we're talking to the folks. The information is out there. They can come out and do this or email their people. We also need to improve the side streets because all these cars, they are going to go down fast, these other roads. And these side roads are shit. They're terrible. They put posts up, people run them over, they're not good. So we need to make sure we protect the people on side roads if we're going to still protect the people on Moody Street. Also, I walk around here, I don't know why we put corrosive material on our ramps, but can we fix that sometime? Lastly, I think the stormwater management is very important. We flow all of our gasoline-infused water, oil-infused water into our Charles River. We need to manage that better. Also, reducing a street population of 80% when there is 560 parking spots left, that shouldn't be an impact to our restaurants and our stores. Lastly, I think that $2.5 million isn't enough, but I guess that's a very, very low value. We haven't really looked into what it actually will cost, so I think it's going to be more than that. So thank you again for doing this. I think that it will be a great improvement by doing alternative one.
Thank you. Leon?
Thanks for the opportunity to voice my opinion. We've heard from a lot of people today, from all over Waltham. But I think the people who really have standing in weighing in on this decision are those who own homes on Moody Street, those who own buildings on Moody Street, and those who have businesses on Moody Street, because those are the folks that are the most impacted by economics, impacted by just the surroundings. And Moody Street's been a commercial thoroughfare for years. In fact, the fact that it is a busy street makes it what it is, what makes it vibrant. The restaurants are coming there because people come there from Waltham, from Newton, from Belmont, Lexington, and it's necessary to have this commercial thoroughfare for people to get in and out. And for the businesses who operate on Moody Street, I think it's critical for them to not have it be disturbed. I would say that there's a lot of parks in Waltham, many more than there are in Belmont or in Lexington. There are a lot of places to congregate. There's a lot of places where people can go for green space and to enjoy themselves. This is a business area where we need to conduct business on a daily basis, and really changing it can be significantly disruptive to those people who have commercial and financial interests on the street. Thank you very much.
Yes.
Thank you. Isaac?
Hello, my name is Isaac. I wanted to voice my support for any plan to reduce vehicular traffic and increase pedestrianization, preferably option C. I believe we should prioritize creating local spaces for people to live, enjoy, and contribute to, beyond using them as ways to get from one place to another. By prioritizing people over vehicular traffic, we can make our urban areas more inviting and hopefully economically beneficial. And I would invite everyone to try to envision this Moody Street proposal as one step towards making Waltham a strong and sustainable community that people see as a destination in and of itself. This is the kind of potential and opportunity that has brought me back to Waltham after leaving for more pedestrian-friendly towns and cities in the Boston area in 2018. The time to act is now. It's hard to see the incredible businesses, services, and people behind all of the street parking and vehicular traffic, let alone to know what they are offering to everyone in the area. Thank you.
Thank you. Gary?
My name is Gary Morrison. I'm a resident of the Highlands, and I've been a breezer in Waltham probably for about 40 years now. So first of all, I just want to give some background story. When I first moved to Waltham about 40 years ago, I remember they had crazy days, and it was so much fun. They blocked out Moody Street, and everybody brought that stuff out in the street, and that happened a few times, and then nothing happened for a long time. So my main point is that I've visited many areas, well, not a lot of areas, but I've been to Italy a few times, and I've been to Florence, and just been to a lot of these piazzas. And what a wonderful quality of life people have there. I just really envy people there. That was one of the biggest takeaways that I've had. So with having this new rail trail that's going right through our neighborhood, that connects out to Market Basket, that's gonna eventually connect down, down to Beaver Street, it's a godsend. I wish that we'd done this 20 years ago. But getting back to Moody Street, I was on the working group for the Moody Street Marketplace back in 2019, where for 4 weeks we closed down Moody Street and brought out the farmers market out onto Moody Street as an experiment at that time. Because everybody talked about doing something, so we figured let's try to do something. So out of that has spawned every year decide what we're going to do, kick the can down the road. So I think my opinion is because of the fact that we had got together with Waltham Local First, the downtown Waltham Partnership of the City of Waltham was to, thank you, was to really, do something together. So I think that what is most important is to close down Moody Street, have it be a destination. People will flock here to come, to go to Moody Street. For overflow parking, how about if we utilize the Common Street garage right over here? Get people from the Trick-Talk trolley and shuttle them over there. Increase signage at the end of when you go over the bridge on the underside, over by where Maple Street and High Street is.
Sorry,
Increase
15
signage
seconds.
also.
15, that's it.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Dan?
Hi, good evening. So my personal preference is alternative 3, but I think that's maybe a bridge too far for some of the business owners on Moody, but I think alternative 1 is a really good compromise. The biggest benefit on limiting traffic on Moody is going to be safety improvements for the pedestrians and the cyclists, and a reduction in the air and noise pollution. I haven't heard noise pollution mentioned very much, but it really is a problem on Moody Street. A lot of the concerns I'm hearing about traffic are really enforcement issues. We have a huge problem in Waltham, like we do in the rest of Massachusetts, with dangerous drivers, drivers on phones, running lights, speeding, missing or obscured plates, violating the noise ordinance, illegal plate covers. We need much stronger traffic enforcement in every part of Waltham, but especially in this area, and there should be an enforcement plan as a part of this implementation. A lot of Waltham right now feels like it's designed in this 1960s mentality that we have to move as many cars as possible in and around the area on streets as wide as possible with no consideration for any other factor. Let's bulldoze a commercial building to build a parking lot. Let's bulldoze a house to build a highway. Cars are expensive. They are inefficient. Every cubic foot allocated to cars and parking is less small businesses, less housing, and less areas for people to enjoy themselves. The city has made a lot of strides in providing alternatives to cars in the 10 years that I've lived here. I think this is a really big positive step, and I encourage you to implement alternative. Which one? 1.
Thank you. Alan?
Thank you for the opportunity to comment. I should say something about my background. I have studied bicycle crashes and been a bicycle crash investigator for 40 years. I'm a former president of Mass Bike, and I've been on the board of the League of American Bicyclists. I'm a cycling study instructor and lead cycling instructor. What I see for bicycle facilities in this project is unbelievably wrong. A two-way, 10-foot wide bikeway that places bicyclists coming uphill on the wrong side of the street next to traffic going downhill, headlights shining into each other's eyes. It's like, it's become the engineering, and not even engineering, but the design paradigm that wherever we have bicycles, we have to create a two-way separated bikeway, and this one isn't even separated. But on the other side, you have people coming out from behind barriers and obstructions. Here's what I'd like to see. If you're going to do alternative one, then bicyclists going downhill go in the flow of traffic with the motor vehicles. You put in those nice raised crosswalks. I'm all in favor of that. Everyone's going at pretty much the same speed because bicyclists are going downhill. Uphill, you can put in a contraflow bike lane separated by a stripe, and you have lots more room anyway because you haven't put up barriers that you don't need. If you're going to do alternative three, well, we've had alternative three during the summer, year after year, and I question, are there any records of problems with that, with bicycles, crashes? I point out now, particularly, we have e-bikes coming in and popular, and they're fast, and just having them on a narrow two-way bikeway doesn't work. I think what I have proposed does work and would be preferable. Thank you very much.
Ken?
My name is Cam. I'm, excuse me, 20-plus year resident of Waltham. I've seen Moody Street go through many changes over those 20 years. The most recent change was during COVID, and I will say, agreeing to many people that came up here, seeing the street closed and be very pedestrian friendly was really nice to see. I don't think, for many reasons, that might not be the most popular option for business, but option one is one that I would support. The other piece about option one is that it creates more canopy on that street. That street is barren with solar. Like, just sun just beats down. And it didn't used to always be that way. I remember before I don't know, you guys did some kind of work on Moody Street, there were bigger trees, at least it felt like. And now it's just really hot out there in the summer, and the heat's going to continue to rise. So I'm for option one.
Gilda?
Do you mind if I address my community? Hello, everybody. But first you have to figure out how to put this on. Do I have it? This is about us as a community, and so I wanted to direct my remarks to all of you. I have great respect for the people who are going to be affected much more directly by any types of renovations that take place. I'm going to say up front that I would relish the idea of having at least a hybrid, a seasonal, dedicated street to people. During the pandemic, it was just wondrous to be walking around, enjoying people. I felt like very connected to a community that I'm feeling more and more disconnected from. I don't think it has to be year-round. I think it can be seasonal, and we can all be out there and enjoy it. There was a lot of talk about mitigating risk for pedestrians on Moody. I think having traffic north or south increases risk. People get relaxed, they might forget that there's traffic or whatever. I think that might actually make it riskier. I think some of the money that gets dedicated to mitigating risk on Moody Street should go to all of the other streets that would be absorbing the traffic. Let's protect those streets. Let's make those streets safe for people. Let's have a Moody Street that, at least for us, for a few months of the year, we can all be out there sitting and dining and enjoying one another and not breathing the pollution or listening to the noise. Thank you.
Thank you. Ryan?
Hi, I'm Ryan Monis. I am a licensed professional civil engineer. I've got a master's degree in civil engineering. That includes transportation engineering. I think it was a very well done study. I'm in favor of options 1, 2, and 3. Anything to close the street. I think that nearly every main street in America is favoring vehicles over pedestrians. I think there's an opportunity for Waltham to stand out, become a point of interest, and there's not much more that I can add that hasn't already been said. Thank you.
Thank you. Ariel?
Good evening. My name is Mary Ballion, and I own Chic Medleys and Aesthetic Center on Moody Street. So I'm a business owner, and I wish there was more of us here. I think it's really important to hear from the business owners of Moody Street. As much as I love the idea of enhancing the aesthetics of Moody Street, and I am in favor of doing some improvements for sure, I think my two concerns as a business owner is parking for my clientele, but more importantly, just access. Okay, so being on Moody Street, I have a wonderful, great amount of clientele that's from the neighborhood and that are Waltham clients. However, a good 75% or maybe even more of my clientele are coming from outside. I have clients coming from all over metropolitan Boston area, different towns, and access to my business is extremely important, and I'm sure just the same for others. I mean, a lot of people outside of Waltham are coming to visit the restaurants. The restaurants are beautiful, popular restaurants, and we need to take into consideration people outside the town that are coming to see us and how that affects the businesses. That's what allows us to flourish and be successful, which in turn, of course, makes Moody Street so wonderful. So a couple of things about parking. I mean, for myself, I do have parking available for my clientele in the garage on Crescent Street behind the building. I'm in the Cronin's building. So for me, I'm not as concerned, but I am concerned about the rest of the businesses just because I frequent them as well. If I'm at work and I want to grab lunch all the way up at Tempo, I'm not walking there, I'm driving there, you know, especially in the wintertime. I mean, and it's not laziness, we're talking about, you know, the seasonality, right? So in the summers when we break down, you know, when we close off Moody Street for outdoor dining, I've loved it, it's beautiful. But who's doing that in the middle of winter? Okay, so I think parking needs to be considered, maybe adding some sort of garage where Anderson Florist used to be, that empty space next to Gustavo's, that kind of thing. But more importantly, the access. If you think about traffic safety, how much safer is it going to be if all these drivers are now coming down Adams and Lowell? How is that going to affect the residential areas as they're trying to come and park in residential areas in order to walk on Moody Street, right? What about, you know, the one-ways? Every other street is a one-way, and I don't know them off the top of my head which one goes in what direction, but that's something to take into consideration. Delivery trucks for these restaurants, where are they going to drop, you know, to deliver their goods? I mean, there's a lot of things to take into consideration. And lastly,
Sorry, 10 seconds.
Sorry,
10 seconds,
just one
sorry.
last thing. I know there's a lot of residents in the neighborhood that favor option 3, but I think we need to really consider all the other factors, such as businesses and people from outside of Waltham come and visit us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Last one, 404 Moody.
I'm very thankful to town since the COVID started, because we have a little store and there's so many little stores. When the Moody was closed, then the traffic, actually the business was totally closed. So I'm very grateful to Kathy and Jonathan and other town people who helped us and opened the two streets so that, so the customers can come. And if, I really appreciate the town very, very much. The way they had made the Moody Street. I moved to Moody Street 2005, and since then it has been such a beautiful name. And I am very proud of Moody Street. I'm very proud of, I'm very thankful to everybody. So I hope that things should be considered to everybody. That's what my hope is, and my thank you very, very much. Thanks for giving me this opportunity to talk also. Thank you.
Thank you. Shemai? 395 Moody Street. Neat. How about Jeremy? Jeremy?
Sorry. Good evening, all. I'm Jeremy. I am a resident on Brown Street, block and a half from Moody Street, and I am in full favor of option 3, pedestrian only, but if not, it would be option 1. And the reason I'm in favor of option 3 is because we have 559 parking spaces off of Moody Street, in Moody Street. There is plenty of parking for anybody who needs to drive to get there. And if there's handicapped parking spots that are needed, then option 1 can be kept open and handicap and delivery trucks can get access. Option 3 would give 45,000 square feet, that's over an acre of space to people. And we don't have that anywhere in Waltham. And also, one thing I would like to consider is for the city to keep in mind that any side streets, any main roads that are going to carry the traffic, if option 3 is implemented, that we also implement similar measures with speed bumps, raised crossings, chicanes, anything to make it safer for bikes and pedestrians, because we can't just have a dead end of Moody Street. Thank you.
Adam? And Paul?
I'm Adam Powell. I live at 102 High Street near the intersection with Newton. I support alternative 3, we focus on placemaking. And I agree it's time for an area in Waltham that focuses on the needs of people and not just cars. My first point is that alternative 3, if you look at it for the parking on the street, right, it's 100% reduction, but in terms of parking in the area, it's only a 7% reduction. There's still plenty of parking in the area if you include the surrounding lots. And we just survived months, or I'm not sure how long it's been, without the top deck. Sorry, I haven't had water in a little bit. Without the top deck of the parking lot near the river, right? The lot right near the bridge, that's been out for a while and we've done fine. In terms of the traffic noise and pollution on other roads, that's a big concern, but I don't think it should hold this project back. I do agree that we should implement placemaking and traffic calming measures on those roads as well. And often those can be the same thing if you have like curb extensions and raised crosswalks that accomplishes both making the spaces more vibrant, reducing noise pollution, and increasing safety and just a feeling of comfort on those spaces. I also shared a little bit of concerns with all the plans for the infrastructure of bikes at the end of the road. If you're going northbound and you're on a bike, that merge into the car lane or trying to turn onto Pine Street is going to be a nightmare. So if there's consideration in the light cycles or with bike box where bikes can go, in front of the car traffic so they can get into that lane without needing to make some dangerous cutover, that would be great. Yeah, that's it. So, thank you.
Hello. I work on Moody Street and I work in a business with windows facing the road. So I see the kind of problems we're talking about with traffic all day. I see people parked on one side of the road doing a U-turn across the entire road. I would love to see one-way traffic to eliminate issues like that. I understand why some businesses would worry about delivery trucks, I wanted to ask, with option 3, would delivery trucks be allowed to go into that area? Where I went to college, UMass Amherst, there were areas that were fully pedestrianized, but the university's vehicles were allowed to go on those areas. So would delivery trucks be allowed to go onto those areas for option 3? That's the question I have. If not option 3, I support option 1 because I walk to work on Moody Street. I spend hours on Moody Street every week, and I find it upsetting how often I find myself or I see other people having close calls with people driving recklessly. So option 1 was chicanes and a focus on accessible parking if option 3 is really not an option at all. I would also like to say that the closest space I can think of is Arsenal Yards in Watertown, and it's just a lovely space to be, but it feels more commercial and less a part of the neighborhood. So it would be nice to have a place like that close where you can be with people. My friend group has a lot of dietary restrictions, so when you go out to eat, Arsenal Yards is a great choice because we can eat at multiple places and still be together outside. So yeah, traffic and having places for people to be together, be that option 3 or option 1. Thank you.
Thank you. Raj, ready? 270 Moody Street.
A minute, okay. So, I just see that this is all about the restaurant. I have to say that, first thing, I'm very much frustrated with every year that we are dealing since COVID. Close the Moody Street, open the Moody Street, close it, open it. It has to be over. I'm hoping this is the end of all the discussion this time. I don't support the first and second. I wasn't here when your presentation was going on, but I heard from people. So first and second, it's kind of the same for me. Third is not my option. I live on that Moody Street for 12 years. I live there more than I live in my house. So I think I know a lot about Moody Street. When it was open, when they were closed, what's going on when they're closed. Right now, all this discussion is making worse for us when the rent are going high. That's what the side effect of everything going on, this discussion, close the Moody Street, make it bigger, bring more people in, make it fancy. My business is not fancy, I'm sorry. But I'm there for 12 years, and I'm paying tax as well. As a restaurant, when they come, they are paying more tax. And even they claim that the restaurants are the businesses who are bringing people on Moody Street. Let me tell you, I have clients who come after 1 hour, 45-minute driving to take my services. I think that's made my business important too. Yeah. So why I am not considered? Why only few restaurants are considered? I'm not against restaurants. We need restaurants. We love restaurants. I need to eat it too. I need to eat, yeah. Right? But I need the money to pay for that food. And my money comes from my business. So closing the street, yeah, how many have experience seeing all these kids driving on the bicycle and create chaos? One time, a lady with their baby, she was almost hit.
Sorry, about 10 seconds.
Thank you for reminding me. I think I put my point, and I'm against of everything except I like the last year, if I'm doing a favor to restaurants, I let them have the sidewalk, the driveway in front of them to have it. And that's it. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Emma Howard.
So I am fully in favor of option 3 of fully closing down Moody Street. I feel very strongly that there should be a spot to exist for people without having cars running through it. I think one of the things that makes Waltham so great is that we are our own space and our own community and not just a suburb of Boston. And I think one of the really important aspects of continuing that is making sure there's a space for people to congregate and meet so that we are not just a place that people drive through to get to somewhere else. And I think the prioritization of cars above all else in every aspect of space only indicates that we are somewhere that people go through. I live on School Street that is not Main Street, but a very busy road nonetheless. We have very small sidewalks and plenty of room for the cars, and all that happens is that people misbehave more on the roads because of that. I understand that people are concerned about the impact of closing it down on businesses. I understand people are concerned about the behavior of cars. I grew up in a town that has a pedestrian mall in Virginia, actually, I think the one that he was talking about. The University of Virginia is farther from the Charlottesville pedestrian mall than both Brandeis and Bentley are to Moody Street. When I grew up on that mall, there were people of all ages and of all areas of the town living there, not just college students. As for people misbehaving when driving, giving them more space is never going to make them behave better. Giving more space for cars is never going to reduce speeding, reduce running lights, or make anything safer, including make it safer for the people in the cars. There is no city center, there is no destination in the country that is pleasant to drive through, that is pleasant to try to park at, because that's not the point. When I go to places, I expect to have to walk there. If I go to Market Basket, frankly, I'm still having to walk in. I'm not parking right in front of it. When I go to Moody Street, I never expect to be able to park right in front of the business, and it's never prevented me from going to Moody Street. Particularly as we look at the necessary and non-avoidable increase in population for the area, having destinations that are nearby to public transit is essential. With Moody Street being next to commuter rail, the bus depot, and now the rail trail, there is no better spot to encourage people to transport themselves without using their car.
Jonathan Paz. Danny.
You know how to try. Hi, Danny Semita. I want to thank you all for your study and presentation. I think all three alternatives are improvements to the status quo of Moody Street. They all beautify the street, make it more pleasant and safe to walk. They all do work to make Moody look more like the gem that Waltham it is. However, I think that alternative 3, full pedestrianization, is absolutely the best proposal, and I strongly urge the city to move forward with that plan. I think there's a great opportunity for Moody Street to become a destination and a community center. This is about more than just outdoor dining, which I do think is great too. This is about building Waltham's living room. We already have so many commercial areas around here that are car-focused, but none that are truly people-focused. Moody Street has the potential to be a place for people to gather, for there to be events and street fairs. We can have the farmers market right downtown, bringing people to all of these local businesses instead of a parking lot. We can host winter markets and festivals. I know when my wife and I bought our home in Waltham, one of the things we were looking forward to the most was the summer closure of Moody, and we were so disappointed it didn't happen this past summer. I wanted to walk around or have some lunch without having the noise and exhaust of cars driving by, to catch a movie or a fighting game tournament at Game Underground. I used to live in Roslindale, and when I was there was a side street in the heart of this commercial square that was closed to car traffic. It used to just be street parking for 10 or so cars, and now it's become a hub of life. Yes, it's used as a patio for the local brewery and coffee shop, but it also hosts overflow from the farmers market, vendors and artist markets, beer tastings, chili cook-offs, salsa lessons, inflatable curling in all seasons. Friends from all across the Boston area would come for the events being hosted or just to grab a beer. I would run into my neighborhood friends without intending to, because that's just where people went in their free time. And that's before the city even started doing a full build out of the plaza. All it took was a couple traffic barriers going up to build community. I hope concerns about traffic and parking won't dissuade the city from pursuing full pedestrianization. As I read the study, it showed that there would be a net improvement in traffic delays from alternative 3. We've had parking studies done in the city showing that we are not suffering from a lack of parking, but a mismanagement of parking. There's a lot behind almost every block on Moody Street, and the Embassy Garage just opened. When we go to the Natick Mall or Market Basket or Costco, we don't balk at not being able to drive right up to whatever store or aisle we need. Study after study around the US and North America and around the world has shown that increased pedestrian activity leads to increased retail activity. Do we not want a destination where people are spending time looking around and discovering new shops and restaurants instead of just driving past in their cars? When Waltham residents were surveyed, 90% of over 500 respondents said yes to repeating Moody Street shutdowns. Like I said at the start, any of these options is an improvement over what we have now. Full pedestrian mitigation with 3 gives us the opportunity to build Waltham's living room, its community space, and a true bright spot and destination, and I strongly urge the city to take that option. Thank you.
Hi, thank you all for being here, and I really want to thank you all for not letting this fizzle out and for continuing to bring this to the forefront and for allowing public input to continue. A few people have commented on the emphasis on the traffic aspects of the conversation tonight and not enough about the community aspects, and that's really what this means to me as well, is the community aspect, what having a pedestrian version does for the community that is adjacent to Moody Street. I live basically at the corners of Newton and High Street, and so even though we're not an immediate abutter to Moody Street, I very much think of Moody Street as being my backyard. And so when I think of Moody Street, and when I think of it being fully pedestrian, I think of things like Jen Williams' free salsa classes on Moody Street. I think of Game Underground having free movies. I think of the Indian fashion show and the car show, right? All of these things that became accessible for people in the neighborhood, that brought us together in ways that, frankly, we just don't do, right, when there are cars driving up and down it. So I'm in firm support of option 3. And I also wanted to mention, someone mentioned the voices that are not in the room. And the voices that are not in the room tonight are many, but in particular our youth. There are no young people who have gotten up to speak here tonight, and their voices are often absent, and they also cannot drive. So when we are creating community places and for ways for children and our youth to get across our city, how are we taking that into account? Moody Street happens to be a connector for lots of things. We've talked about commutes and public transportation. 510 Moody Street is the rec center. At the top of, then it turns into what, at the Common and Nitsch, we have the library, we have the Boys and Girls Club. We have Whittemore just around the corner, we have McDevitt right up the road as well, right? So when we think about creating a safe space for our youth, and we know a lot about youth mental health and wellness these days, creating spaces for them to be safe, to get places outside the car because they can't drive. I'd love for that to be part of the conversation as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle.
Hi, thanks for giving us the opportunity to talk over here. I'm Mr. Patel. I'm owning the store at the 425 Moody Street, Patel Brothers. I'm here since last 20 years. And as the city started since the COVID, close, open, we are affecting a lot of business. When last year, 24, they leave the street open, a business let alone. Only you guys can put your leg in our shoe, then you're gonna know what is affecting us. It's a high rent, high taxes, high employment, high pay rates, everything. And if there is not customer coming, we cannot survive. If you want to guys to make a restaurant and place all these things, you guys can buy our place, you can take our place and just leave it from here. And we are happy to go out from here and you can make whatever place you want. When we bought a place over here, there was not an idea like this. We are paying a rent for the Moody Street. We are not paying the rent for the Chestnut Street. We are giving the rent for the Moody Street, very highly paid we are. I'm giving $38 per square feet. And I cannot make the rent, I cannot survive right now, if having all these things. 24 is little hope for me because the street was open. And I'm thankful, greatly thankful to Kathy. She helped us to survive in 21, 22, when they closed the road, she literally opened up Chestnut Street two-way for us, the customer can. There is no on the GPS, customer can come to my store. If you close, they have to go around, and they cannot come to the store. So these all are affecting us. We are having a business over here. We have a least sale more. I'm happy, yeah, we are very happy with having a pedestrian mall, this, that, but you have to think on the non-restaurant owners over here on the street. And you have to see us. That's the main thing. You have to feel us. How the facing we are. No one gonna let us know or let us go without the paying the rent. That's only I want to say. You should think on the option 4. Leave it is open. Whatever you did in the 24, yeah, that is the good idea. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Luke Fernandez.
Hi, I just want to say thank you. I'm very glad that you are continuing to look into this and research this, because I know there's a lot of strong feelings on both sides of the issue. I moved to Waltham a little over a year ago. One of the things that attracted me to Waltham, I'd been in Watertown for a better part of a decade before that, was Moody Street, was having it shut down from traffic for a couple of years. I know that also has brought a lot of my other friends to Waltham as well. I think it's been very positive for Waltham. I personally really prefer option 3, but I am very sympathetic to the issues of a lot of the business owners that are not restaurants. And so I think option 1 and 2 are a very reasonable compromise for both sides of the issue. The other thing that I do wish this research had done more of was, we've kind of had 3 different ways of doing it. Fully shut down, a hybrid, and then fully open over the last 30 years. And I wish there was more information of how this affected all of the businesses on Moody Street during that time. There doesn't really seem to be any information as far as like the actual impact on the books of these businesses. And that's a little frustrating, because obviously that can really impact things one way or the other. Anyways, again, option 3 would be my preferred, but I think option 1 and 2 are very reasonable compromises. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Ocean.
How you doing? I'm Steve Pedosi. I'm a landlord on Moody Street, also on Lowell Street. Unfortunately, I came to the September meeting and I sat there for 3 hours, and then I was told you weren't going to speak. Pretty disappointed about that. And I was told to go to the October meeting. I sat there for an hour and 45 minutes, and nobody was there. Now I'm here and I can only speak 3 minutes. As a landlord for a long time on Moody Street and Lowell Street, this is impacting my livelihood. If we do any of these changes, the street should be left alone the way it is. I'm paying money. My tenants are paying money. We're paying taxes. We're doing the best I can. I think one of the smartest people here tonight was someone I don't know, the urban development. Matthew, okay, and this young lady right here. He has a sense of an urban development, because I don't know what's going on here, but everybody wants to have a little playground. Your study was for April. How about do a study for a whole year? And your study, what, it stops at 6 o'clock at night? I don't understand that. I don't like that we can't talk back and forth, a one-way conversation. It's not too good. We're hurting a lot. We're hurting the fire department, the police department. We're helping restaurants. And you know what? We love restaurants. But their businesses thrive after 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock. Your study didn't show the whole year that we had, okay? in the summer when it was shut down, and this was the best year ever that it was shut down. And then it went from May to September. That was fine, perfect. But what you're planning, so you're gonna shut me down again. Every meeting I go to, I get shut off, okay? You made me wait for 3 hours, and that's it, right? So, I don't understand the logic behind it. You know, you don't manufacture land. The street is what it is. It's about, what, 45 feet wide? And you want to zigzag it? What about the deliveries from Mr. Patel's place? Tractor trailers, family dollars. Nobody can get around. For bicycles, you're going to stop the bicycle lane from here to here? For what, 1,500 for 1,500 feet, 2,000 feet? Doesn't make sense. Please, how come there wasn't an option 4? I know the city put this together. Why is there not an option 4? I want to know why it was stuck 1, 2, and 3, not 4. Very unfair, and there's a lot of stuff that's not right. I know you don't like it. I know you don't like it. Good luck.
Jan Renee.
I'd like to say I think there should have been 5 options. A 5th option, which would have kept the street open both directions, but made some improvements for pedestrian and reducing the heat island effect. I was very disappointed in this study. First of all, I think prior to writing up the study, you should have held charrettes and workshops and gathered feedback from the public about what they wanted to see and what concerns they had before you ever sat down and wrote the study. I was also concerned that some of the things I saw in terms of photographs and diagrams in the study appeared to have been clipped from other projects. That picture of the tree, of the fire, street lamp base with the sunken bricks, that's not on Moody Street. And anyone who's ever walked up and down Moody Street can recognize right away that that picture was not taken on Moody Street. There's no place on Moody Street that has a white line painted near the curb. All our bricks are full-length bricks. So that was just a red flag right away. There was another diagram where you referred to the river by name other than the Charles River. I think it was Ronstadt, something with an A. Then there are places where you show pictures of a street with trees, lots of trees, but then on the map of the diagram, I look and I see on the side where Global Thrift is, that there appears to be only one green infrastructure space designated, which I suspect is a bioretention planter, not even a tree, because you probably wouldn't be placing a tree on a corner, because that would affect visibility and turnability for large trucks like the fire department or a delivery truck. In terms of the chicanes, I wonder if that's not going to make it difficult to plow the street. I know that the fire department, I've heard them express concerns about raised sidewalks and curb extensions interfering with their ability to maneuver down the street. I don't own a car. So you would think I would be thrilled about the pedestrianization of Moody Street. I live in this neighborhood. I am not. My bus that I rely on because I have no car to go anywhere in, not just when I'm going out to dine, it no longer runs down Moody Street. That was supposed to be a temporary measure. And your report says it has no impact. It has a big impact. I'm waiting for that bus to come back. A lot of low-income people are waiting for that bus to come back. Historically, Moody Street area was lower income, lower car ownership, and that's been changing because of the restaurants. They bring in higher income people, rents go up for tenants, and the rents go up for the commercial businesses.
Thank you, Jen.
Hi, everybody. My name is Nina Kammerer, and I live on Cushing Street. I want to say that I'm just very, very, just pleased to be here and hear all these different perspectives and all the different knowledge that comes and all the different experiences that have been voiced. And I really hope that that is going to continue, because there are issues that are not solved by any of these plans, and yet we have things like the example from Mr. Patel, who said that accommodation was made. If we put our heads together, I think that there are accommodations, creative ideas that will take into account not just cars, traffic, but also all of the other things that were mentioned by the urban planner and the community. And I have lived in a city that has pedestrian spaces. It is magical. I have also lived in the tropics, and I never expected to feel that I live in the tropics when I live in Waltham. And so I really want to uplift the issue of the heat island. We are a terrible heat island. It is bad for everybody. It's bad for business too, in a certain sense, because people don't, Anyway, so I feel with this, there are many other things. There's conversations that need to be had, information that needs to come together. People need to talk to each other, because when we talk together, then we understand all the different needs. And all of the expertise that people have comes together. And I think that that's extraordinarily important for our community. And there was one other thing, I'm sorry, there was one other thing that I wanted to say. Oh, that the heat island isn't just Moody Street, it is all of the downtown. And we have a rule that when they take a tree, which they did right near my place, it's the responsibility of the homeowners to do it. Lots of homeowners don't have the time to do that, and they don't have the money to do that. The city has the expertise to plant trees. They know where the lines are of the gas, et cetera, and they do it safely. It really has to be done, and it has to be done massively. And I want to make sure that our city starts doing that. And it's not just Moody Street, it's all of the other streets around. And it's something that is for all of us, and we really need to do. And that can be done in combination with making our, I'm getting older, my hip is hurting more. It is very hard to walk on our sidewalks downtown for somebody who, like me. And so I just want us to pay attention to making sure that the sidewalks are safe in the sense that somebody in a wheelchair can go on them. And that we don't have the heat island we have now.
Thank you. Dan Taylor?
Hi, my name is Dan Taylor. I live at 44 Pleasant Street. And for me, I think this question is about a vision of Waltham community and Waltham downtown. And I think I don't agree with those who think that the people who have businesses and live on Moody Street necessarily own the street. The street is owned by the whole city. And the city has a right to have a vision of what we want things to be like. Now, one thing I would very much like the city to do, for those councilors who are here, is make available money to help businesses that may want to relocate. I think that is a fair thing to do. But I think it's also fair for a city to say, this is our community and we'd like this thing to happen. We have plenty of other busy thoroughfares in Waltham. We don't need to keep every busy thoroughfare a busy thoroughfare. So for me, it's really about that making a community, having a downtown that is a destination. Now, we happen to have, for whatever reason, 20, 30 years ago, restaurants decided that this was a good place to be. And so that gives us an opportunity to create a downtown space that is centered around those restaurants. And I know that that may not be fair to the non-restaurant businesses as much, which is why I'm in favor of the city helping relocate if need be. But it is not a bad vision. It does attract people. It brings business here, people here, to spend money. It makes it a nicer place for us to live. I loved watching the kids playing on the streets. Of course, there are issues. We always have to work out on those issues. What I'd like to see is alternative one with the ability, with gates there that can be open and closed, the ability to close it off. So perhaps from April to October, you close off the whole street on the weekends. Only on the weekends, open it on the weeks. So I think there are still lots of questions, lots of things to be worked out, but I think Waltham has a right to have a vision of what they would like to look like. And I think having pedestrian downtown would be fabulous.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Nika. I have a salon. It's a small salon, 362 Moody St. I'm still on Moody St. since 19 years. Everybody talking about the traffic and all the stuff. It's okay after pandemic, and we are not surviving at all. Business are losing after 4 years. Everybody is talking about closing and street and traffic and everything. But if you are helping to the restaurant, closing the street, it's okay. You can help them. But you can help to the small business to pay the rent. That's it. To pay other businesses, we are not surviving to pay the rent even. We have to close that days when you're doing something. That's why it's very, very hard to pay the rent. And I know you are helping to the restaurant. Restaurant surviving more. We saw 24. You close some of restaurant, they close the street, but only 2 restaurants they use that area. All restaurants empty outside. Every day I saw over there, nobody is using that place. All chairs are empty, nobody using that place, sitting place, even eating. Only Tempo and Amuleto. Only 2 restaurants they use that place outside. Nobody else they use that place. That's not worth it to close the street. That's my opinion, not close the street. Keep open. If you are not opening the street, just pay the rent for the other people. Because restaurant they paying you something. That's all. Thank you.
David, 24 Livingston Street.
Hi, I'm Dave Ross. I live up on Prospect Hill. Thanks for all the work that you guys have been doing, and thanks for all the commentary. It seems evident to me that a few things. Clearly, this study doesn't speak to all the stakeholders that it needs to speak with. And that makes me think that several people spoke better than I can about that. But I think I just listened to a Waltham Land Trust presentation on the heat island effect, which affects the part of Waltham that we're talking about, making it sort of all around less good for businesses, less good for people living there. And so my experience working as a design builder out in Framingham is that there are a lot of businesses do not want to have trees because it obstructs signs. So that's just an example of where we might try to solve the heat island effect, but also work with businesses like the sign initiative to make sure that we're helping businesses as well. So I also think that we might look to the backsides of all the stores and think of a more broad plan if we're going to start limiting Moody Street, because the businesses have a legitimate concern, but it's also all of our street, not just the people who live on Moody Street. It's both. And so there are a lot of resources that we have. We have the Downtown Waltham Partnership, which would be an excellent resource to get into this conversation. We have the Waltham Land Trust. We have the Charles River Museum, education wing there that could get a lot of young people involved, bringing energy to the street. But I think that broadening out this study to look at the backsides of all the businesses, what makes that attractive, so that people don't just say, well, you know, I have to be able to pull right in front of the business. And so broadening the study, just making this up as I go. Yeah, that's it. So you have some more resources. It seems like we need to do more work before we pull the trigger on this.
Thank you. Lisa Schultz.
Hello, Lisa Schultz. I live at 49 Galen Street up in the Highlands near Prospect Hill Park. I work remotely, so I have a lot of flexibility to kind of go around Waltham, run errands during the day. But I also venture into Moody Street quite frequently at night and on weekends with friends for coffee or to restaurants. I've lived in Waltham for 5 years, and I have never once been deterred from going to Moody Street because of parking. I've always been able to find parking. One thing that I didn't really see this really touch on or talk a lot about, which you had just mentioned, was the opportunity for additional parking. So not just specifically on Moody Street, but the option of any parking garages or anything additional. I think conversations like this can be very polarizing, like one option or the other, alternative A, B, or C, or 1, 2, or 3. And I think that it doesn't need to be. Can we not have both? Can we not have the closure of Moody Street and have the city prioritize the businesses and their needs as well? Is there not an opportunity to make sure that the businesses still have enough parking to be able to fully operate while closing Moody Street? I think the last thing that a few people touched on that I want to reemphasize is there are plenty of studies post-COVID around the importance of community. And I truly believe that we have a gem of a space here in Waltham, and I would love to see option 3 as a space for people to be able to come together, to be in person, to collaborate, and to share space and to share resources together. Thank you.
Looks like B and Lauren.
I grew up in Boston and I lived here in Waltham 40 years ago, and I returned in 21. I spent 40 years in Vermont. And, but I came back and forth all the time because my family, my Waltham family is here. Personally, I love Moody Street. I love Waltham. I love Waltham because of the diversity. It's very, very different than any of the towns around it. And it's for that reason that I came back here. And it's for that reason that my love of Waltham just keeps growing. I appreciate all of the research that you've done, and I know it's not the final word, that there's going to be a lot of processing with City Council and hopefully more. When I think about Moody Street, people have been talking so much about the restaurants, but what I love is the mix of the little shops, the diverse places, the comic book shop. It's fantastic. I mean, the variety, I can buy luggage if I want in one store. It reminds me of old Canal Street in New York, where I spent time as well. And I hope that we don't lose that diversity. Whatever decision we decide to make, I hope we don't lose that diversity, that kind of crazy mix of things that we have, which makes it would be boring if it were all restaurants. We need everybody. I think that the community, it's wonderful being here tonight, and I went to all of the concerts that I could get to on the Common, and I go to a lot of events on the Common. I mean, Waltham has an incredible community spirit. I often think about it being like a large, small town. I mean, within a very small area, you can get all of your needs met. So my grandmother, my Italian grandmother, would always talk about the via di mezzo, the middle way. So I'm hoping whatever decision we make, we find a middle way to bring in everybody's interests. And I think the ideas for engaging more people in different parts of the community is a very good one. And I trust the community. I trust the community. And I think if any of you know your city councilors, you should talk with them, write to them, come to these meetings. I mean, that's the way we'll find the right solution for our community. And I appreciate our community hugely. Thank you.
Tim?
Firstly, I'd say I'm glad that the conversation on this topic is still going on and that it wasn't dropped. I kind of found last year's iteration of this not really inspiring. I was in favor of pedestrianization. I continue to be in favor of pedestrianization, any version of this that turns into that. I do think all of the pedestrianization options are okay. I prefer option 3, but most of all, I would say that probably the bike lanes on the street are probably not necessary. As much as I'm in favor of bike lanes generally, I think greater intensity of pedestrianization would be better. So I would say that that option, or that part of the all those options is probably something we would consider removing. If, however, we don't do anything and it still end up with option 4, I'm hoping we can get some enhancement to the status quo, which would be a parking benefit district established on Moody Street, specifically parking meters and orderly traffic flows, and the revenues from those parking meters invested directly into Moody Street, which could improve the area, which could still have some of the benefits that pedestrianization would do, maybe not as much. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else that would like to speak that hasn't spoken already? Spoken already.
Thank you. I'm Eric, I live on Dale Street. I've been in Waltham for about a year. I think there's been a really lot of good points. I won't rehash things. A couple things I haven't heard people say. I think that there is somewhat of a big difference between having zero traffic and having some traffic, especially if you have small kids. That is something that I think, like option 1 is sort of a compromise, but in some way it's also the worst of both worlds because we don't get the benefits of really doing this whole big project. Another thing that I wanted to throw out there, I know that a lot of the traffic actually on Moody Street is from people just trying to like parallel park, and it seems like maybe making one way but keeping those parking lines there is still going to keep a lot of problems that with traffic. So I wonder, and I defer to the experts here, which I really appreciate that we've had a lot of people actually know what they're talking about, if it makes sense to remove those, that wouldn't help traffic a lot. And yeah, the one thing I just wanted to advocate that other people have said is I think it would be irresponsible for us to just kind of move ahead and not be considerate of everyone in the community, and that I do think we should be putting resources towards mitigating the impact on people who are affected. So if that means adding parking lots behind businesses, we should be thinking about if we can put money towards the neighborhood that will be affected for redirected traffic. And I remember the last thing I want to say. People have been talking a lot about like other urban centers. People talk about like Europe, like Florence and Munich and places like that. I love those places. One thing that we don't have is the public transportation system that those places have. So, well, the canal system's terrible public transportation. That's terrible though. But so we don't have a way for people to get to those places that we do here. So I do think we need to be thinking about, can we add other ways for people to be getting into downtown if we are going to be doing these parking options? Thanks.
Thank you. Is there anybody else that wants to speak that hasn't spoken?
My name is Harish Chawla. I'm on a 362 Moody Street, and I have a business. And if you guys want to, whatever pedestrian mall, anything, pay our rent, period. Pay our rent. All the welcome area. Pay our rent, we leave. Thank you.
Okay, thank you everybody for coming. At this point, 8:05, I'm going to adjourn the meeting.